The reasoning behind our recommendation is important. Let me start with it's a recommendation I'm making as a governor, but one that I have to live with as a dad. My son's supposed to start sixth grade. They would have already started, I believe, in the school district that he's in here in Frankfort. And my daughter needs to get back in in-person classes too. In my very core, I want us to get back to in-person instruction. But to ask our kids to go in and all of our teachers and faculty at a time when it's not safe is something that we can't ask of them, and I'm not willing to. I want to go over 4 reasons for the recommendation that we are making. One is, if you'll show the chart of where Kentucky is right now. This is what we were talking about, in that in the past 5-6 weeks, we have seen an increase from that plateau that we were at to where we are now, July being our most difficult month. And even if last week's numbers stay right, 3,797, we think they're a little more. Last week before that, 4,106. Week before that, high 3,000s. That means we have been at a place in time where we've had almost 12,000 cases in 3 weeks. That we right now, again, are what I pray will be the highest area that we're ever in Kentucky. And the concept that we would try to resume in-person classes at our peak instead of during a decline is something that would defy logic, wouldn't be safe to do. Second piece is what we are seeing in Kentucky and across the country, an increase in infections in our kids. We have seen it both here in Kentucky, where I read just the kids 5 and under lately, and it's heartbreaking in how much those numbers are increasing. And then hopefully you all saw this news nationally, 100,000 kids tested positive in the United States in just the last 2 weeks of July. It is a myth that kids do not get this virus. It is a myth that kids cannot spread this virus. And so what we are seeing is a significant increase in the infection rate of our young people, and understanding that when they go back in school, they can spread this not only to each other, but also to the faculty and other members of the building. And let's also remember that while there are significantly fewer bad outcomes with kids, there are still bad outcomes. And the more we create a situation where the spread can increase even more significantly than it is right now with our children, is when we expose more children to that risk. Other thing that we're seeing is an experience in other states. It seems some of the same states that rushed to reopen really fast and went through some of the largest surges are also reopening their schools to in-person classes the fastest. And whether it's a couple schools in Indiana, whether it's schools across Georgia, we are seeing schools open up for 1 day, 2 day, maybe a week, and then shut down. And that's something that we can't walk into expecting or hoping for. We have to have a plan, and I have to make a recommendation that gives us a real chance of success. That you don't send your kids to school for 3 days, school shuts down, it takes another week and a half to get distance learning up. You do distance learning for a certain period of time, never knowing when you might get back to in-person classes. This is more disruptive, in our opinion, starting and stopping, than a plan that can have an opportunity of success. And then the last reason, and it's one that we begged and pleaded on but continues to be a challenge, and that's through the month of August, our families continue to go on vacations to places where the virus is so hot. And while we have put our travel advisory up and we've got those states, we continue to see families go to the beach, whether it's in Myrtle Beach or in the Destin area. Every time that happens, you can bring it back to your workplace, which is trying hard to keep it out, your church, or heaven help us, a school. And because of that, plus conversations with many of our superintendents that have said that they need to go ahead and make a plan for whether they start with distance learning or whether they alter their calendar, we are making what we believe is a realistic recommendation that's a tough one, but one we believe can give us some success. It is one where we are not going to simply say 2 weeks from now and then delay it 2 weeks from then and delay it 2 weeks from then and potentially prevent school systems from taking some steps that they can to do the best they can to educate our kids, even if it's remotely during that period. So our recommendation today is that schools wait to begin in-person classes until September the 28th. Yes, that's about 6 weeks from now. But it's also 6 weeks from what I hope is the peak of this virus. 6 weeks from the last 3 weeks where we have been pretty much at all-time high week in and week out. 6 weeks from a time when we just had a 6% positivity rate. Let's face it, we're trying really hard. And we've got good steps that we've taken. Masks are working, but we do not have control over this virus. And to send tens of thousands of our kids back into in-person classes when we don't have control on this virus isn't the right thing to do for our kids. It's not the right thing to do for their faculty, and it's not the right thing to recommend as governor. And there's some I know that'll say this is a decision being made by the governor. It's a decision being made by the virus. We're living through our pandemic. Whether this is our Spanish flu, whether this is our version of the plague, and if you think about it that way, we're pretty blessed compared to what happened then. It's not going to be easy. And lots of sacrifices are going to be made, and yes, our kids are falling behind. My kids are in that developmental time when they need to be in school. But their overall health and safety, along with that of their teachers and others, has to be paramount. And we have to have a plan that has an opportunity of working. We're going to be working very closely with our Department of Education, with our superintendents, on trying to provide all the flexibility we can, with the ability for them to bring small groups of kids in, whether that's to get Chromebooks, to provide some instruction on how to use them, to get an idea of what the schedule will be moving forward if they choose to do that. Flexibility in, they already have this, maybe changing some of the days of the calendar. Right now, it would be better if our families did not take vacations during a semester of our school year, and that's one where we could eat at certain days that are out there. I'm pretty sure our kids will go to school any day we ask them to right now. So a tough but a necessary step, and again, I believe we're going to be through this beginning of next year when the vaccine gets out, but until then, we're going to have to make difficult choice after difficult choice to survive. And surviving and protecting each other is what we are trying to do. So that's the recommendation that was made today. I believe it's the right recommendation. Everybody won't agree with it, but my job here is to make the tough calls, is to move any type of politics out of it and just try to make the right call, both as governor and a dad.